The political chief of Hamas announced today that the militant group had received a proposal to pause the fighting in Gaza after representatives from foreign nations, including the U.S., agreed to present the group with a framework that would begin with a 6-week ceasefire to allow for the release of more hostages. As of today, Hamas says it was studying the proposal and would give it some serious consideration. And the Department of Defense yesterday identified 3 Army Reserve soldiers who were killed at a U.S. base in Jordan on Sunday in what the Biden administration said was a drone attack from an Iran-backed militia. The department said at least 34 of the service members were wounded in the attack. Those killed included 2 women who were assigned to the 718th Engineer Company based at Fort Moore, Georgia. A team of soldiers trained to deploy at short notice to build roads, landing fields, and protective beams were part of this force. And the special prosecutor leading the election interference case against Donald Trump will not have to testify this week about an alleged romantic relationship with his boss, that is, Georgia's DA, Fani Willis. Now, the Fulton County District Attorney reached a divorce settlement on Tuesday. The resolution of the divorce between the special prosecutor Nathan Wade and his wife leaves unanswered for the first time a question that has created a potential peril for Fani Willis's high-profile prosecution of Trump and 14 of his allies. And the hoopla surrounding the world's biggest pop icon, that is Taylor Swift, who happens to be the girlfriend of Chiefs tight end Travis Kelce, reached the stratosphere after Kansas City made it to the Super Bowl over the weekend. So the conspiracy theories coming out of the Make America Great Again contingent were legendary. Some of these theories include that Taylor Swift is a secret agent of the Pentagon. I can't even say it, it's so crazy. That she's bolstering her fan base in preparation for her endorsement of President Biden's reelection campaign. And one of the conspiracy theories says that she and Mr. Kelce are a contrived couple, assembled simply to boost the NFL or COVID vaccines or Democrats or whatever these conspiracy theorists can make up in their minds. Don't know why they won't leave Taylor Swift alone, but she is going to be the talk of the town until the Super Bowl game is played, and then probably after that. And also the main Democratic super PAC supporting President Biden's reelection bid, that PAC is called Future Forward, is beginning this week to reserve $250 million in advertising across the most important battleground states. Now, they say this media blitz is the largest single purchase of political advertising by a super PAC in the nation's history. Now, these ads will be split between $140 million on television and $110 million on digital and streaming platforms. You can look for them to start the day after the Democratic National Convention concludes in August. And we're going to see those ads, $250 million worth of them, running through Election Day. And the House Homeland Security Committee is expected to approve articles of impeachment today against our Homeland Security Secretary, Alejandro Mayorkas. The Homeland Security Secretary is under scrutiny by Republicans who are racing forward with a partisan indictment based on Mr. Biden's, our president's, immigration policies. These Republicans, extremists mostly, are saying that the secretary is refusing to uphold the law and that he's somehow breaching the public trust in his handling of a surge of migrants across the U.S. You can imagine Democrats are fighting this impeachment effort. The Department of Justice, though, is investigating Representative Cori Bush. She is a congresswoman from Missouri who is known to be a member of the Squad. Now, she's under investigation for alleged spending practices that violate campaign laws with regards to her security services. Cori Bush says she is fully cooperating with the probe and denied any wrongdoing. Congresswoman Bush also disclosed today that she's under investigation by the Federal Election Commission and the House Ethics Committee. She says again that she is cooperating with both. She said, however, that the Office of Congressional Ethics, this is a nonpartisan entity that reviews and refers matters to the Ethics Committee, did not find any wrongdoing on her part and voted unanimously to dismiss the case. Very curious. She is being investigated because they said she spent $60,000 for security services to a person named Courtney Merritts, whom they said she had a personal relationship before she came to Congress, and a person who they said she married in February of 2023. This is Areva Martin in Real Time, and I'm your host, Areva Martin. This is your one-stop destination for today's trending news, expert analysis, and my unfiltered opinions. In this hour, here to help us make sense of all of today's news is Sharon Reed. She's a journalist, TV host in the Black Network. She's also an Emmy Award-winning host and commentator. And also Marvin Pendarvis is with us. He is a South Carolina state representative, and he is fresh off of the House floor in South Carolina. So excited to have both of them returning to the show. I can't wait to break down the news with them. In hour two, we are going to be joined by a mother and a therapist. This mother and her husband and her entire team that works with her daughter, Michaela, who happens to be a 16-year-old teen on the autism spectrum. This family got together and created a very beautiful short documentary, really that tells the story of their journey as an African-American family with a nonverbal daughter who is on the autism spectrum. And the name of the movie is, or the documentary, I should say, is Michaela's Voice, A Letter to the World. Now, Michaela's Voice, this documentary had its world premiere at the Slam Dance Film Festival. That was a part of their Unstoppable series. This happened just last week in Utah. And we're going to talk to this mom about why she decided to make a documentary about her daughter's journey with autism. We're going to talk to the therapist that has been working with Michaela to help her communicate and to help her connect with people in her world. Many of you know I have a son myself that's on the autism spectrum. I'm an autism advocate. I run a large nonprofit focused on families who are raising kids with autism. So I'm super excited to have Michaela's mom, her name is Manana, on the show today, along with their therapist, Roxy. And later this week, I'm going to actually talk to the dad. He is a Grammy Award-winning hip hop producer. His name is Needles. Also, the producer of this documentary is going to join Dad on the show later in the week. Again, really important story. The stories of African Americans with autism often get overshadowed in mainstream media. So whenever I have an opportunity to platform and to share a story of a family raising a young person or a child with autism, it's always a pleasure for me to do so. So I'm looking forward to talking to this mom and the therapist in hour two. But before I bring on my guest, here's what I'm thinking about in real time. I don't know why Florida is obsessed with gay people, literally obsessed. It seems like Ron DeSantis and all of the folks he's appointed, or the majority of them, have some kind of personal vendetta against members of the LGBTQ community, particularly those who are transgender. If you haven't seen this, you've heard me talk about the law, basically this law that was passed that prevents teachers from using the word gay, that prevents teachers from even talking about different kinds of families in the classroom. But I was just reading the paper today, and now there is a law in the state of Florida that is preventing someone who has transitioned from identifying on their driver's license their gender as they see their gender to be. So if you were born biologically as a male and then you transition to a female, up until very recently, you could go and change your driver's license and you could indicate on your driver's license female as your identification. But Florida wasn't happy with that. They didn't like that. This Florida head of the Department of Motor Vehicles thinks that he has the authority, the ability, the final say in how people should identify on driver's licenses. And he has this long kind of rant where he's talking about how you're born and how the state should be able to identify you based on, the body parts that you're born with. And I just don't know why it would matter to them. You get pulled over for a speeding ticket, whether you identify as a female or male, what does it matter? If you're speeding, you're speeding. If you're using your driver's license to board a plane and you identify as a female, you want to say to the world and to the airlines and the TSA and everyone, I am a female. So now just imagine what that's going to look like. You're going to have to show up at the airport or wherever you use your driver's license, in your authentic self as a female, hypothetically, with a driver's license that says you are a male. So every time you show that driver's license to someone, you're going to have to explain it to them, go into all kinds of explanations that you or I don't have to do. I think this is discrimination on the part of trans people. I hope that there are lots of lawsuits filed against the state for this new law. And I hope that there is tremendous backlash. We've already seen Ron DeSantis trying to, take those oppressive policies that have passed in Florida, take them on the national scene. And we saw how much the country, thank God, rejected him and these efforts. And I hope that backlash continues, because that is absolutely punitive and seemingly is serving no public good. And again, I just don't understand what is their obsession in the state of Florida with people who identify as being a part of the LGBTQ community. But again, I hope we see those people who will be impacted by this law stand up, stand in solidarity, and fight back. When we come forward, more of today's breaking and trending news right here on KBLA Talk 1580. Stay with us.
You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580. At KBLA Talk 1580, we believe that caring for the community means caring about the climate. You might have heard that we announced a pretty bold 12-month, $2 million campaign to do 4 things: increase climate literacy, turn up the volume on communities of color in the climate conversation, connect everyday people with the resources they need to survive and thrive, and highlight frontline climate justice crusaders of color throughout this year. KBLA Talk 1580 will be bringing you insightful interviews on all of our shows to help raise your climate IQ. Each quarter this year, we will also be hosting free climate events in various communities throughout the city with food, fun, and forward-thinking conversations. Thanks to partners like LADWP, Metro, Caltrans, the Sierra Club, the California Community Foundation, the California Endowment, AQMD, MWD, and more. You'll also be hearing more about a couple of national town halls broadcasting live from Los Angeles, to which you will be invited. And we'll be rolling out a robust social media campaign on all our platforms, as well as an outdoor media campaign, all designed to educate, enlighten, and empower you in our fight for climate justice. Caring about the community means caring about the climate. At KBLA Talk 1580, we believe that we really can change the world if we care enough and care enough and care enough and care enough.
Hello, I'm John McKinney, your candidate for District Attorney. As an African-American who has served our community for over 25 years, I'm proud to have successfully convicted the killer of Nipsey Hussle, standing up for justice where it matters most. But my commitment extends beyond the courtroom. I'm deeply invested in youth development. And when it comes to our police, I believe in accountability. It is essential that those who protect us are also responsible to us, reflecting the values and integrity of our community. This election, I ask for your vote. I am John McKinney, and I'm running to be your district attorney. Learn more at McKinneyforLA.com.
Paid for by John McKinney for LA District Attorney 2024.
You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580, where climate is king. Climate is king.
The thing no one tells you about periods is that your flow changes every day, and so should your tampon size. Tampax has 5 absorbencies to match your changing flow. If it hurts to remove, go down a size. If it leaks, go up a size. Only Tampax has a leak guard braid to help give you up to 100% leak and odor-free protection. All-day comfort and protection for under $5 a month. Based on average U.S. consumer usage at manufacturer suggested price. However, pricing is at the sole discretion of the retailer. Excludes 8-count packs.
Taco Bell just dropped the new Cravings Value Menu. Now you can get 10 items for $3 or less, which means you can get the food you want for the price you want. It's almost like you can have your cake and eat it too. But in this case, it's a double stack taco from the new Cravings Value Menu. So basically, you can have your double stack taco and eat it too, which is a lot crunchier than cake. The new Cravings Value Menu is here. Get it at Taco Bell today. At participating U.S. Taco Bell locations while supplies last. Contact store for price and participation which vary. Tax extra.
We are back, and in this hour, Sharon Reed and Marvin Pendarvis are joining me. Sharon, let me ask you, why are the MAGA people going after Taylor Swift and her new boyfriend with all of these just bizarre conspiracy theories about her being some kind of plant from the Pentagon, that this is all just made up so that she can endorse Joe Biden? This is all a part of some kind of anti or pro-COVID vaccine. I mean, the stories are just bizarre.
They're going to do what they're going to do. Okay. That's just the way it is. And that's what they're doing right now. And I think too, Areva, that we have to understand that chaos, distraction, that's the game plan. And that's what will always be what they're about. Anything but real issues, real people. I like Taylor Swift, and I never even thought about her like that, but I might like her even more. So they're having the opposite effect. I also like that she's not being drawn in, but she's a woman who will speak her mind when she wishes to, not when you command her.
Well, we know she did have a moment a couple of years ago when she waded, kind of put her foot in the water, I should say, in, I think, the Tennessee Senate race. Was that, Marvin? Where she was it Lamar Alexander or someone that she was campaigning against? She came out in favor of some Democratic senator in the South, and the MAGA crowd went crazy. Are you expecting her to jump into the fray this election? I mean, Biden could use an influencer with her platform, which is, needless to say, enormous.
I don't expect her to get into it, but would I be surprised? No. And to Sharon's point, I mean, they're making a big deal out of nothing. At the end of the day, Taylor is dating one of the best superstars in the sport. Obviously, the media is going to follow her. In fact, I saw something today about the economic impact that she's had on the NFL since she's been attending games since September, something in the neighborhood of $300 million, economic impact that it's had on the NFL. Obviously, they're going to play into that. I mean, why wouldn't they? At the end of the day, it's about the bottom line, and the MAGA crowd can feel how they feel. Certainly, Joe Biden can use that injection if she decides that she wants to endorse it and he wants to play that. But at the end of the day, she's going to play a prominent role in this Super Bowl. It's going to have ratings, and for that reason, they're going to have to deal with it.
So Shannon Sharp, Sharon, decided he would jump into the fray and made some comment like Beyonce couldn't do for the NFL what Taylor Swift is doing. How come every time there are successful women doing things, there seems to be this need to try to pit them against each other? Taylor Swift and Beyonce, from what I've been reading throughout their respective super successful tours, they were lifting each other up. They were encouraging each other. They were photographed together at premieres of, I don't know, Taylor's movie or Beyonce's movie, one or the other. But now this like, Beyonce can't do for the league what Taylor can do. Now, nobody's responding to it, at least these two superstar women are, but what do you make of that?
Shannon Sharp has gotten himself into enough chaos with Cat Williams, and he probably should have a seat at this point, because we're not trying to hear that, particularly when you take these two powerhouses. I mean, their world domination is at their feet, both of them. One black, one white, but they transcend. So he needs to have several seats and let this play out and leave Beyonce out of it. She'll probably get a primo ticket to the Super Bowl. After all, Jay-Z has a prominent role. But I just piggybacking on the last little question you asked about Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. I just wonder if WAGs get to go to the White House after Kansas City wins, and what that would be like if Joe Biden, could capitalize on Taylor Swift being right by his side, and what that might do for any campaign boost.
That's a
Yeah,
great point. That's a
that could be incredible if she would, be willing to show up. Just her presence, right? She doesn't even have to talk or say anything, just being there for the photo op alone and all the hype that would happen if people knew she was going to be there. That's interesting. Let's hope that happens. Let's hope that there's that intersectionality between the Super Bowl and Joe Biden's campaign. But what do you think, Marvin, of Shannon Sharp's comment? I mean, Beyonce, as you just said, both sharing powerhouses. Beyonce had a huge economic impact on every city that she toured as a part of her, uber successful concert tour, in the same way that, Taylor Swift was just, literally impacting the US economy with that concert. So why the need to try to pit these women against each other?
Well, I'll say this as a
Heading
fan.
like that, Marvin.
Well, it's unfortunate, and I say this as a fan of Shannon Sharp when he played for my team, the Denver Broncos, and I will say this: it's unfortunate that he had to drag Beyonce into this because it was a disservice to Beyonce. The truth is, what Taylor Swift is doing and her relationship with Travis Kelce and the impact that she's having on the NFL can stand alone as independent of anything that Beyonce has done. And so there was no need to bring her in the conversation and to try to pit two women against each other. We saw it that, you followed online when the two of them had their parallel tours, when they had their albums and people were trying to make comparisons. It's unfair to them because as you alluded to, the two of them have been very vocal about the fact that there is no competition and that they're very friendly with each other and have been seen in public with each other. And it's unfair to both Taylor Swift and to Beyonce for him to bring her in that context. And so I was disappointed to hear his comments in that respect, but certainly understand.
So, okay, now that we're talking about women beefing, even though we're not, I'm thinking about this article about Nicki Minaj and Megan. All right, Sharon, we're going to digress from politics for a minute, but what's that about?
I am so disappointed. I'm just so disappointed. You have security being beefed up at Meg's mother's grave site. It's just, come on now. I'm not trying to be corny, or maybe I'm dating myself. I'm too old, at this point. But is this what we're doing, ladies? Two powerhouses. And I don't mean to say there's equal blame on both sides. I don't know, and I don't care. But it just smacks of just this messy ignorance. And I just can't get ready for this.
Yeah, I guess, Marvin, some would say that this is how rap artists sell more records, how they get more attention, how they get more downloads. I just dated myself with the word records, how they get more downloads. So we better stick to politics on this show, but we're already here, Marvin. So is this about, attention grabbing, again, getting more eyes, getting more downloads? Meg just dropped this new, this new music. What do you think about this? It's a little, I was disappointed in the same way that you were, Sharon, but maybe we should see it through some different lenses.
So admittedly, I don't know much about the beef. I've seen it on social media. I've tried not to learn as much. I know it from a surface level, but what I can tell you, what I do know is it is about attention. And I think the two of them recognize how this generation of consumers, how they take in music, how they take in these celebrity beefs. And it's entertaining for them. It's all entertainment, right? And so if it's going to drive views to their channel, if it's going to drive views to their page, if it's going to drive views to their album, then that's better for their bottom line. That's better for the sales of their album. And it's all an entertainment business. And at the end of the day, sometimes beef sells. Sometimes, confrontation is something that can help catapult or resuscitate a career. And so it's unfortunate. It certainly is petty. But I'm not surprised because at the end of the day, they're probably using it as an opportunity for further exposure.
And I guess I will say this year, and although you and I agree, the men in the hip hop industry have used this technique for years. And we know that one of the things the women fought for was to be treated equally, to be able to sing the explicit lyrics and not be slut shamed because they're saying the same words that men have said, for decades. So I guess to the extent women fight for equal rights and they want to have every opportunity to engage in the same way that men do, this is a, page right out of the hip hop playbook for two popular, artists to start having this online kind of back and forth, because it does have folks like us who don't normally ever talk about them, right? Talking about them.
I agree. I do agree, Areva. I will say this. I did check myself. I did like a little mental thing. And I said, am I being harder on them than I would be the guys? But the truth is no.
Hold that thought. We're going to come
Okay.
back to it. We're going to come back to this topic because we're going to digress from politics a little today. Stay with us. KBLA Talk 1580.
Right time. More of Areva Martin in no time when we come forward.
I'm Amber Payton. Here's the latest on the Black Information Network. Opening statements are expected to begin Wednesday in the murder trial for former Franklin County, Ohio deputy Jason Meade. The trial stems from December 2020 when Meade fatally shot Casey Goodson Jr. The case has drawn national media attention, with some advocacy groups arguing Goodson's death is an example of senseless police brutality against an innocent Black man. Meade's attorney claims Goodson was armed and refused to drop a weapon he was holding, leading the deputy to open fire on him in self-defense. Massachusetts plans to use a recreational complex in Roxbury as an overflow shelter for up to 400 migrants. Governor Maura Healey said the recreation center will start accepting families tomorrow. Boston Mayor Michelle Wu said there are no good options, noting it will force residents of a predominantly Black neighborhood to give up a community asset. The state hopes to close the overflow shelter by this summer. That's the latest. I'm Amber Payton on your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network.
Singular crash in Claremont continues this evening on the 210 East Town Avenue as the crash remains in two right lanes. Overall stop and go flow continues from the 134 and stop delays continue over 20 minutes from Lone Hill Avenue. Expect a 30-minute traffic jam now on the 91 East of Anaheim between Highway 57 and Gibson Canyon Road. 605 South in Santa Fe Springs. Drive carefully as the stall is on the right shoulder just before the 5, with a 15-20-minute traffic jam running heavy from the 60 Pomona Freeway. And in Long Beach, a motorcycle is down in the carpool lane involved in an accident on the 91 East before Cherry Avenue, and 40 minutes of heavy traffic flow continues from Normandy Avenue.
We've all felt the impact of rising food prices. For families in poverty, they're facing malnutrition and even death. You can feed a family for a month with your $50 donation to Compassion International. Just text the word radio to 97646.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Sad story today out of Wichita, Kansas. Police in Wichita found the life-size statue of Jackie Robinson burned and dismantled. The statue was stolen Saturday from McAdams Park, home of League 42, a youth baseball league in Wichita. Police are still looking for suspects. The statue is beyond repair and will need to be replaced. City officials unveiled the statue in 2021 in honor of the first Black man to play in the major leagues. Robinson broke Major League Baseball's color barrier in 1947. The statue cost $75,000 to build and put on display at McAdams Park. City officials and League 42 started a GoFundMe page on Facebook to help raise money for a new statue. As of today, nearly $11,000 has been donated. If you want to contribute, go to League 42 on Facebook. A statue of Jackie Robinson should always be protected and should always stand tall. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Got me a damn girl on my team.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we believe we have the best tag team in morning radio. Dominique DePrima and Tavis Smiley as the first Black woman in Los Angeles to anchor a morning drive talk radio show. Dominique covers local politics like a blanket, weekday mornings from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. At 9 a.m., Dominique passes the baton to Tavis Smiley, who talks to everybody about everything every day until 12 noon. KBLA's dynamic duo, Dominique and Tavis. It's no wonder the LA Civil Rights Department is honoring Dominique DePrima this year at its Tell Our Story honoring Black journalist leaders and storytellers event, Thursday, February 8th. Or that the John M. Langston Bar Association of Los Angeles is honoring Tavis Smiley at its 47th Annual Installation and Scholarship Awards Gala with its Community Impact Award on February 10th. We couldn't be more proud of Dominique and Tavis, who make Black history every day, not just in February. If you're missing Dominique and Tavis weekday mornings on KBLA Talk 1580, you're missing out. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we've got your black.
Holla, yeah.
KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Single Moms Planet is a nonprofit organization dedicated to uplifting under-resourced single mom business owners and working mothers nationwide. Single Moms Planet offers comprehensive programs of financial literacy, business development, mentorship, and entrepreneurial training. They provide education, accountability, and hope. Single Moms Planet was founded by model, TV personality, and producer Nefertiri Plessy. Nefertiri felt firsthand the challenges that face single moms as she was raised by a working single mother. She learned that the most disadvantaged group in the United States are single mom families. According to the U.S. Census, 30% live under the poverty line. So she decided to do something about it, along with co-founder Cole Patterson. Their goal is to end the poverty cycle in single mother households through education, opportunity, and networking, providing family and child enrichment programs for under-resourced single-parent families. Single Moms Planet serves over 10,000 single moms and their children each year. Studies show that business development and financial literacy provide a positive environment for children and families, exposing them to new possibilities and opportunities. To attend one of their fun events, make a donation, or get more information, or if you need help as a single mom, please visit singlemomsplanet.org. That's singlemomsplanet.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
All right, we are back, and Sharon Reed and Marvin Pendarvis are joining me. And in hour two, we're going to be talking to a mother and a therapist about their journey of a 16-year-old nonverbal autistic girl. Her story and her life has been made into a documentary that received an honorable mention at a film festival just about a week and a half ago or so. We're going to talk to both the mom and the therapist in hour two. And then later in the week, we're going to actually talk to the dad, who happens to be a famous hip hop artist and one of the producers of this documentary. All right, Sharon, back to this real quickly, this beef between Meg and Nicki Minaj. Maybe I found the answer, did my little research when we were on the break. Meg just announced on Good Morning America that a new album is imminent, and over the summer, guess what? She's going on tour. The Hot Girl Summer Tour is gonna be 2024 summertime, she said, adding that this is gonna be the first time that I drop an album on time for the summer. So, according to the cut, sounds like things won't be cooling down anytime soon.
They're gonna keep it hot, and I'll just say real quick, equal rights, they're free. The ladies are free to do what they want to do. I just think that for the men too, it's a little bit lazy. You know, there's other ways to generate interest, and I just want to sometimes see a little more thought into it. But you know, I'm not mad at them. I hope it is a hot summer.
Yes, Meg hopes so too. So she's starting early, getting folks primed for those tour tickets. All right, we're going to keep watching what happens with the ladies, because something tells me this is not going away anytime soon. In fact, in this article, Nikki says she has 5 more diss tracks ready to go. So they're going to be unloading on each other all year long. All right, Marvin, let's talk a little politics. The Republicans want to impeach the Homeland Security Secretary. We've never had our Homeland Security Secretary impeached because, according to the Republicans, he's not enforcing the law, and they're not happy with what's happening on the border. Is this setting a very dangerous precedent?
It is setting a dangerous precedent, and it's something that we haven't seen before. I've been following along, and I saw that they had some hearings on it this morning. And the truth is, the Republicans are very upset with what's happening on the border. And they're trying to point blame at the secretary and saying that he's culpable in what's happening at the border. It's unfortunate. It's a political game. We've seen these kinds of witch hunts with this GOP majority and trying to attack members of Biden's cabinet and his administration, basically stating that they're not doing their jobs and tried to come for them in different ways. And so it's unfortunate that we're wasting time dealing with this. But I'm not surprised given, this is the playbook that this current Congress, at least the majority of this Congress, has decided to employ.
Yeah, and I'm not even so sure they're upset about it as much as we know Donald Trump has signaled to them no immigration deal this year because they have seen some polling that says Americans care about immigration and that it's a hot button issue. And if they can just make Joe Biden and Kamala Harris look as bad as possible, you're doing such a horrible job on immigration that we have to step in and impeach the Homeland Security Secretary, knowing that he's not going to be removed from office. All is a part of trying to bolster Donald Trump's campaign, Sharon, which last couple of weeks have not been good for him. Not only did he not win either New Hampshire or Iowa by the landslide that his team expected, the little plot to force Nikki Haley out of the race, that got exposed and they had to backtrack on that. He obviously now has $90 million in civil verdicts that he has to deal with. And the civil verdict coming down on the fraud case should be happening any day now. So he literally could be facing $400 million, that he has to shell out, state of New York, or in this case, E. Jean Carroll. Is Donald Trump's popularity, not so much with that hardcore MAGA crowd, but do you think his popularity is starting to wane?
I hasten to say yes, but yes, I think it's a good possibility that we're going to see more and more people energized and coming out, traditional Republicans who they just can't deal with the chaos. And if you're going to be a good liar, if you're going to be a liar, I guess I should say, be a good one. This whole thing at the border, when they are the ones who are holding up a deal that gave them pretty much everything they wanted, it's just silly at this point. The chaos, the disruption, it would be better for America if they would just shoot off fireworks every night. It'd be cheaper too. And just put on a real show that we can at least appreciate instead of coming up with this, Eric Holder nonsense where you're now impeaching another person in the cabinet. This time it's the Biden administration. It's played out. Okay. I would rather have Meg and Nikki battle it out. Then this is nonsense, okay? They're more creative than this.
We said they get elected to represent us in Congress. So, there is a big difference. Marvin, this, again, you're a lawyer. So you and I and Sharon's a journalist. So we get this pressure that Donald Trump is under. And a lot of people have been saying, oh, it doesn't matter, nothing sticks. This is real money. And this is real legal jeopardy that he's in. We forget there is a lawsuit, a civil lawsuit that has, made its way through the court systems, filed by plaintiffs around January 6th. So the civil liability isn't ending. There are more cases in the pipeline. Donald Trump could end up owing $500 million in, civil judgments. And I have to imagine at some point this starts to cause some voters at least to think, do we really want someone in office with this much liability? I was reading an article about the case that Letitia James brought, the civil fraud against his companies. There is a monitor that the judge put into those companies to make sure he wasn't moving money around. He's paid this accountant who's the monitor $2.6 million to monitor his company. So, he's bleeding money and he is not so wealthy. Nobody's that wealthy, and definitely not Donald Trump, that you can bleed money at the rate that he is. South Carolina's primary is coming up next week. Nikki Haley is hanging on, not Ron DeSantis, who people thought would hang on. So what do you think happens in South Carolina with voters as they are watching Trump, just have problem after problem, legal jeopardy after legal jeopardy. Does this open a window for Nikki Haley?
I think it could. It won't in this situation. As Donald Trump's legal problems continue to mount, his civil judgments, we know excess of 90 million. Obviously, there's some criminal culpability that facing. I do believe that traditional Republicans are going to grow weary, and they're going to question whether this is someone we want to put in office, especially with the cloud that is surrounding Donald Trump, and whether he is even able to stand for office, given the fact that he could be in jail and the civil liability that's attached. As it relates to Nikki Haley, though, the truth is her campaign is running on fumes. The South Carolina primary, it'll be so the Democrats vote on Saturday. We've got the Republican primary coming up in a couple of weeks. And when I tell you that the reality is her campaign, I mean, it's on its last leg. And after South Carolina, I suspect that she'll bow out of the race. South Carolina voters are very loyal to Trump, and I think they look past everything that's happened with him criminally and civilly, for good or for bad, for better or for worse. They seem to look past that, and they're very loyal in that respect. And so I don't think it's going to make a big impact. But going into November, I do believe we'll start to see Republicans question whether this is someone that we want to rally behind.
Yeah, I can't believe that Republicans, and particularly independents, are not going to have litigation fatigue. I mean, it's just going to be too much, I think, for people to have this man who has been adjudicated as a rapist. I mean, let's be clear, that's what this judge determined. That's what this jury of his peers determined, that he raped E. Jean Carroll. And E. Jean Carroll now has found her voice, and she got 83 million reasons to be out talking. And she's making her rounds, and she's a good-looking, very well-spoken 80-year-old woman. And, now we're remembering her from back in the day. She was well-liked. She's always been witty. She's been on Saturday Night Live. So I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see E. Jean Carroll everywhere this year, and that she has some appeal, particularly to white women, particularly to women who know what it's like to be sexually assaulted, to be sexually harassed, and to not be taken seriously. So I think that there is going to be litigation fatigue. And speaking of litigation, I am so proud of Nathan Wade's ex-wife, because they settled that divorce case today. So in doing so, Nathan Wade doesn't have to sit for a deposition, and they don't have to have all this discovery that could have really created not a disqualifying situation for Fani Willis, but some embarrassment perhaps, we don't know, but potentially some embarrassment. So having done some family law early in my career, it can be difficult, and exes can be very, 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 very evil. I mean, divorces can be just horrific. I mean, it brings out the worst in people. I don't know his wife, never met him or his wife, but his wife said, look, we can settle this out of court. I ain't got to bring Bonnie down. If that's your woman, whatever, y'all, go in peace. I'm just making this up as I go. But she did have to agree to settle this. And it does take a lot of the steam out of that hearing, Marvin, that's coming up, where Fani has to answer to these allegations that are baseless and senseless. And I was on TV over the weekend. Someone had the nerve to suggest that, she should step down. And I'm like, the people asking her to step down have no credibility. The MAGA people can't ask anybody to step down from anything until you ask Donald Trump to, in your words, Sharon, sit down. So the hypocrisy is just nauseating. So Nathan Wade's ex-wife, you won the day, girl. Thank you for letting Bonnie Willis go down in history as taking down Donald Trump and not get distracted in your and Nathan Wade's divorce proceeding. I'm sure we haven't seen the last of it, but that was a big, big, big plus and a big victory for Bonnie Willis, because she doesn't have to go through some of that embarrassing discovery that could have happened. When we come forward, we've got to talk about the Democrats, $250 million they are going to spend to flood the airways, or at least a super PAC on their behalf. Stay with us, KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
What's up? I'm Danelle Riley, FAMU alumni and creator of the HBCU Culture Shop. I am so proud of my new partnership with Black Beyond Measure and Target. They help me elevate community pride with my HBCU designs and continue to support Black creators and entrepreneurs with Target HBCU challenges, scholarship programs, and campus collaborations. Let's come together this homecoming season and beyond. Shop my brand and discover other Black-owned products at target.com/Black Beyond Measure.
KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminding you that we keep us safe. Pro Football Hall of Famer and urban peace pioneer Jim Brown believed in just that. So he founded the AmeriCAN Foundation for Social Change in 1988, focusing on at-risk and high-risk youth in underserved schools and juvenile detention facilities, as well as adult incarceration and reentry initiatives. The core of the AmeriCAN program is its 15-chapter life skills curriculum. Mastery of these skills allows individuals to meet their academic potential, conform their behavior to acceptable societal standards, and improve the quality of their lives by equipping them with what they need to confidently and successfully contribute to society. Today, the foundation is led by its president, Monique Brown, who has been actively involved in the organization for more than 25 years. The AmeriCAN Foundation continues its work in memory of its founder, actor, philanthropist, and NFL legend, Jim Brown. To get involved or make a donation, please visit AmeriCANCommunity.partners. That's AmeriCANCommunity.partners. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
We're not just a thermometer recording and broadcasting popular opinion. Transforming the conversation about climate justice in our community. This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk 1580. At KBLA Talk 1580, we are unapologetic about amplifying the voices of those who have historically been left out of the conversation. As we approach our 3rd anniversary this summer, the problem with talk radio in Southern California specifically, and America more broadly, is virtually unchanged. All day, all night, all white. We make no apologies for our prime audience. But true to the best of our tradition, we're committed to expanding justice and freedom for all. So when we receive messages from listeners like Neil, we just smile.
I realize that I'm not your target demographic, but I love listening to your station as it is the only progressive station on the dial.
That's us, unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
All right, Marvin, the Dems, or at least the super PAC on behalf of the Dems, are going to spend $250 million, the most money ever spent by a super PAC to influence an election. A lot of that money is going to be going to battleground states. And we know that Joe Biden made some pretty big moves over the last week or so, transferring some folks from the White House back to the campaign staff in Delaware, some of his key advisors. Donors and supporters wanted to see that happen. They wanted to see him start to gear up for the election. He allegedly is hiring staff in states, battleground states in particular. And he was in South Carolina reminding Black folks that he has not forgotten that he is president because of Black voters in South Carolina. Now, he's not likely to win the state in the general, but he will sweep the South Carolina Democratic primary. But what was the mood like having him there? Because we've been hearing all this news about 22% of Black folks are going to vote for Donald Trump and Black folks aren't feeling Joe Biden and not enthusiastic, blah, 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 blah. Tell us if all of that reporting is fake news or if that really is the consensus based on what you saw with the president's visit to South Carolina.
Yeah, Reva. So I was with the president. He was the headliner at the first in the nation primary dinner that we had for the Democratic Party on Saturday night. And his message was pretty clear. And he talked to Black voters about what this administration had done. And he talked about 4 keys piece of legislation that's had a transformative impact on African-American lives and how the trickle-down effect from those pieces of legislation has impacted African-Americans, how we're benefiting from it. And when you get into the weeds of it, it is something that we can take as an accomplishment of this administration. Talked about the Inflation
Hold on a
Reduction Act.
second. I was gonna say, give us the 4 so we can carry the message forward.
Yeah, so the Inflation Reduction Act, we obviously the American Rescue Plan, we've got the bipartisan infrastructure bill, and then the CHIPS and Science Act. And those 4 pieces of legislation that came through Congress that President Biden pushed have had a real impact on Black Americans, particularly, and of course, he talked about the impact that it's had in South Carolina, but he's got to share his win. And that's really talking about the wins that his administration has had.
So Marvin, give us like the lay person's way of talking about these 4 things, because no one's gonna know if I tell them, you know, that Inflation Reduction Act really did a lot for you, Black person. They're gonna say, what are we talking about? So like, give us the shorthand for these 4 pieces of legislation.
All right, let's look at Inflation Reduction Act. Simply put, Black unemployment is decreased. And we know that that is important because we want to put people back to work. Let's just look at it like that. And when people go back to work, then that obviously does a lot for our economy. We know over the last few months, our economy has been booming and more in the last 3 months than it ever did under the Trump administration. And so Black people are going back to work. That's a good thing. American Rescue Plan, in a nutshell, we know what it did throughout the pandemic. We know what the funds that came to really make sure that people were able to get by, to get groceries, to make sure they're able to feed their families. That's something to be able to keep extra money in their pocket. That is something that.
Well, Marvin, people say, even in rap songs, that it was that Trump check. So what do we tell them about the ARPA check?
Well, people have to understand, and I get it. I mean, colloquially, they talk about the stimmies, right? And what Trump did with those stimulus checks. And obviously that had some impact, but we've got to look at what, when we came out of the pandemic and after the pandemic, and we had to really get back to this new normal and figure out exactly what life was going to be like. The American Rescue Plan came at a time when American people needed it the most, particularly Black Americans. And so beyond getting stimulus checks, it was about making sure that the dollars that were coming down from the administration was working for people in a realistic way, everyday Americans, making sure that they're able to get back, put money in their pockets to do the basic things, to get basic necessities, and making sure that they had access to the things to live the kind of quality of life that they need. The 2 other things that he talked about, the infrastructure bill, we know infrastructure is a major issue. Not only just roads and bridges, but beyond that. We know what that means for African-American communities. We know how infrastructure is lacking in so many of our communities, how it's used to divide our communities, how it's used to gentrify our communities. And so when we're talking about this in Black communities, we must have infrastructure that's going to allow our people to move, to get to and from, and to understand that the monies that are coming here are going directly into our communities to benefit our communities. And then obviously CHIPS and Science Act, that's just basically getting the jobs that Trump sent overseas back into America so that we can have plants that are built, that are investing here, that are building here to put our people to work. And so, and I'll end with this. I was getting a haircut on Friday in advance of the dinner. I was talking to my barber. And my barber told me I could share this story. He is previously incarcerated for 10 years. And he was telling me that he didn't vote in 2020 because he didn't feel like Biden sold him on a vision that he could believe in. But he said in 2024, he's voting for Joe Biden. And you know why? Because he was able to look at the stuff that he's done and the impact that it's had on his life and so many other Black men and women that he's around, the impact that it's having. And he said, I'm voting for Joe Biden in 2020. This was unsolicited. He was cutting my hair. He was just talking about it. And if that brother feels that way, I know there's so many other brothers. And so I reject this notion that there are people that are looking to Donald Trump and maybe deflecting from Joe Biden for a number of reasons. There are people who are seeing what the policies are and how it's impacting people. And it's up to us as Democrats to make sure we're selling this message. And as you had alluded to, extrapolating from it something that people can see, that's tangible, they can understand and digest and see how it's benefiting their lives.
No, absolutely. And Sharon, I'll give you the last comment on this. You're a journalist. You spent your life, talking to people. What's the best way to tell this story? Because people really, stories can resonate with people. In 30 seconds, like, give us the elevator pitch for why we should reelect Biden and Harris.
Step number one should be to sign Marvin's barber up and get him on the campaign trail, okay? Because I don't doubt any of the proof of performance that Marvin ran down there. It's real, but the messaging cannot overcome, okay? And $250 million is not going to be enough. It's a welfare check, if you will, when you've waited and waited and waited to engage with Black men who still are skeptical, who still are not getting it. And at some point, the Democrats are going to have to realize, like some of our friends in our community have told them, you've got to turn to people who know how to talk to us. And the same old guys and the good old boy network that exists in the Democratic Party is not it. They don't know how to talk to us. And they also need to realize what LeBron does. You got to train all year round if you want to be a champion. Now you want to outreach and it's almost February? Now.
Well, with that, we got to leave it there. Thank you, Sharon. Great points. And yes, I'm all for that barber getting signed up and, being on the campaign trail. He is the right messenger. Thank you, Marvin. Thank you, Sharon. Always a pleasure to be in conversation with you. Stay with us. A story of a girl who's nonverbal, but yet is telling her story right here on KBLA 1580. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate both of you. Thank you. Great point, Sharon. Let's get that barber signed up, Marvin.
I got you. See y'all next time.
Love that.